His physical stature is rather small, but a big man in many ways is he. Our work in Hydro is what brought us together, and many miles together put on did we, where resolving work problems was always a pleasure, for his mind was always open to input from me. In our many hours we spent together, profanity was never a part of his vocabulary, a true sign of his clean lifestyle in living, and his total respect for all others, obviously. He so often spoke well of his family, and it was very obvious he held Yvonne so dear. For the two of them had raised a lovely family, and Wayne's love for such was always blatantly clear. As the two of us in Hydro aged together, and our Hydro retirements broke up the sphere, one appreciates more our past close friendship as the days have turned into year after year. Although we now have no close association, I often reminisce about many projects that we undertook together on behalf of BC Hydro, like the takeover of the Tasiast and Zabello community. As I come to the end of this wee jingle, aware of Wayne's upcoming 60th wedding anniversary, I wish to extend to him and Yvonne our congratulations from V and I, as well as the entire Johnston family. So did you know that Jim was a poet?
Yeah, he phoned me, but I didn't realize he wrote this.
Well, of course he did.
Yeah.
This is from him. There are some other people here that we actually asked if you'd like to say a few words. So the first person I'd like to introduce is Bill Tybee.
Bill.
Hi everybody, can you hear okay?
Yeah. It's good.
So Wayne and Yvonne and June and I go back over 60 years. Wayne and I went to University of Manitoba together. And we met our wives somewhere around there.
That's right.
It's really nice to be here and see all the family and see what's happened over 60 years. Started out with 4 in the whole room. So anyway, congratulations on your 60 years, and we'll be celebrating ours in September. So one of the things that they said they wanted some sort of a comical thing that might have happened, and this goes back even before we were married. And in university, and to graduate, you had to have a graduation thesis. So Wayne and I and Stu got together, and we made a thesis up about communications on power lines. Quite a bit of work. And we had to scribble it all out in our handwriting and diagrams and formulas. Part of the problem was when it came time to type it, we didn't know who was going to type. None of us had any money. In those days, people were poor when you went to university. So I looked at Wayne and I looked at Stu, and we didn't know what to do. So anyway, we sort of asked Wayne if he could figure it out. We sort of volunteered Wayne to do it. So a few days later, Wayne came back and said, well, I got an idea now. My girlfriend Yvonne is a real good secretary, and she works for some office in town. She comes from Elm Creek, and she'll agree to do it. So we thought that was great. And he says, he had to persuade her a bit, I guess. And then he said, by the way, we're getting married next year. Anyway, Yvonne did a really excellent job, and we got a lot of comments about how good that was. And she didn't have any Xerox machines or computers. She had to do it on a typewriter and use carbon paper. And there was formulas, fancy formulas like 2.3.14 times 125,000 times the square root of SB8. Anyway, I had some other things, but I won't take up any more of your time. We'll tell them later afterwards. Thanks for asking us, and we hope to see them many more years socially and whatever. Nice to see you and your family. Bye.
Okay, we also have another person to speak, and it's Carol Turner.
Oh, Carol. Oh, Carol.
Well, first of all, I wanted to say how Fred and I were absolutely honored to be invited to share this day with you and Yvonne and all your family. I didn't really prepare a speech, but I just thought I was asked to look at some of the memories I had with both of you. And I think I first met Wayne about 33 years ago, 1978, when I was administrator of the engineering training program. And Wayne was on the committee, and he was such a dedicated, loyal person, and so interested in the young engineers doing a good job and being trained well. He did have one problem, though. He wanted every engineer to be a distribution engineer. and we were trying to get them to go into transmission some other places. So anyway, that was fun with Wayne. But he was a delight to work with. He was always smiling. Whenever I think of Wayne, I think of a smiling, happy, dedicated person. It was only about a couple of years after that, Fred and myself were sailing in Victoria, and I had mentioned to Wayne we were taking Fred's parents who were visiting us sailing to Victoria. He said, "Oh, you must come around for dinner." And he basically said, "Oh yes, I'll come pick you up. Yes, you have to come for dinner. Bring Fred's parents." So sure enough, he did, and we first met Yvonne. And what I was amazed about was to meet a couple, a wife, who was every bit as hospitable and kind and considerate and as her husband was. And so Yvonne really accepted us and was a gracious hostess, and we had a marvelous evening with them. And Fred's parents enjoyed it as much as we did. So then the next thing I remember about the family is Wayne was so loyal to Hydro and thought Hydro was the best place in the world to live. So he encouraged his children to follow him. And so one day we were talking, and somehow we had to get an application to Larry, was going to apply for a job at Hydro. And so I said, "I'll take it home, Wayne, and he can come to my place." So Larry came over, and we spent a few hours together, I think, that evening, Larry, and chatted and everything. And he applied for a job, got a temporary job at Hydro. And of course, Wayne was so happy, and maybe I hope Larry was too. And then Larry went on to do wonderful things at Hydro, and you're still there, I'm assuming, Larry. Yes, and so that was a very happy occasion for us. And we noticed with Larry that he was very confident, self-assured, a very interesting person to spend time with. And I thought, oh, well, that attests to what wonderful parents both Yvonne and Wayne have been to raise a child so confident. The next child we met was Warren. And oh my goodness, if I thought Larry was confident, Warren was very confident, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yes. And so he was a delightful person too to meet. And he also joined BC Hydro. Made Wayne very happy again. And but only for a short while, because I think Warren was always a bit of a rover, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And he moved from place to place. And I don't know where you are now, Warren, but I'm hoping that you're happy there.
Yep.
And then I did meet Doug once. We had lunch at the Burrard Motor Inn. And I think Warren must have been there too, or I'm not sure.
going there anyways.
But I do remember that, and we had a chat, and so then the next time, I think we had dinner at Queen Elizabeth's garden, park,
Oh, yes,
one
that's right,
evening.
yeah.
Wayne has been a very generous and kind person in keeping in touch, and then we met your family about 8 years ago.
Yes.
So tonight, today, I was looking so forward to seeing these little twins who were two then, I think. They were so sweet, and they've turned into beautiful girls. So I happened to meet, I had the pleasure of meeting 3 of the sons. And I was really looking forward to meeting Gayleen and Marla. Because one of the nicest Christmas gifts I think I get every year is a letter from Wayne, at least a 2-page letter, keeping us informed as to the travels that he and Yvonne have gone on and the hydro jamborees
Yeah.
you've attended, and also telling me about all his family and what's happened to them. So I've been able to keep track of them without seeing a lot of you, Wayne and Yvonne, but that life seems to just go so quickly. And anyway, I just wanted to say that I know that Yvonne, no doubt, had a great deal of influence in raising the children. Wayne also did, of course, but the both of them are such wonderful people that I just am just so happy to be here today. And Wayne, I always visualize him as just a smiling, happy person. So I'm sure you've made him that, Yvonne. And thanks so much. And it's great to share this day with everyone that's here. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. We also have one other guest who's going to share a few thoughts. Before we do that, I just want to make sure everybody is comfortable. I know that people are standing, so if you do need to find a seat, please let us know, and someone will provide a chair for you, because there are a few more minutes.
No, I'm fine.
Sure.
Do you need chairs? Anybody? No chairs?
Is everybody okay?
How about Bob? How about Bob?
Yeah.
I'm okay.
Okay.
It's okay.
Okay, go ahead. Bob.
Okay, we have one other guest who's going to say a few words, and it's John Taylor. And John, I can actually give this over to you.
You can just.
John, you can just sit right here. I've got it.
That's fine. Just let me lean up against the mantelpiece here. I really have very little to say, but I probably have had. Can you hear that all right?
Ask Mara, is it?
Is that okay?
But I probably have been with Wayne in his working period for a very long time. And one thing that somebody mentioned just a little while ago, that when some people are quiet, they're not, nobody said anything, well, their face is sort of calm. But Wayne, when everything is quiet, Wayne is smiling. And he smiles whether there's something to smile about or not. Wayne still smiles. And he always looks as though he's welcoming you. And I'm very glad to be able to say that, Wayne. But I haven't anything very much to say else about him, except that Does anybody here know anything about Ripple Rock? Ripple Rock, it's in the Johnson Strait, and it's the narrowest point between Vancouver Island and the mainland. And they decided, the government decided to blow it up one time. Well, the currents were running on each side of it, something like 6 to 10 knots. And you couldn't get at it from the outside. So they went across to the island, just across the way from it, and dug a hole and mined their way right into the out under Johnson Strait to Ripple Rock and up into Ripple Rock. And there they produced so much dynamite that it was the biggest explosion that has ever occurred outside of a nuclear one. And so Wayne was up there to just to see that, because we had a power line over top of the rock, and we thought, well, somebody should go up there, and Wayne was the obvious person. Did you get a surprise when it went off, Wayne?
Wow, just boom. Our power line went up too, boom like that too.
Yes, I think it was, well, it was as we saw in the papers, the biggest explosion outside of a nuclear one that has ever been put together. I don't know how many boxes of dynamite they put in there, but anyway. So anyhow, I am very pleased to come and meet you all and to see you again, Wayne.
Yeah, thank you very much.
I'm glad we're all over.
Huh? Yeah, okay. Okay. Yeah. First of all, I'm pleased that our family organized this event and invited all you wonderful people. We are really indeed blessed that you folks are part of our lives. It all began in the 1940s when I first met Yvonne. That was when I was going to I should mention that how I met Yvonne is the fact that her brother Jimmy had invited me to visit his family at Elm Creek during the Thanksgiving break at the University of Manitoba. And at that time, I was living in residence and was taking, as Bill mentioned, I was taking engineering classes with Bill Tivey. And at the residence dining room, I can remember quite often seeing June there, together with Bill sitting at the same table. So that's the beginning of the big romance that ended right now. Anyway, in 1950, after graduation, Bob Douglas, Bill Tivey, and I joined the Saskatchewan Power Corporation in Regina. In 1956-57, the three of us left the Saskatchewan Power and came to the BC Power Commission in Victoria. There, under the direction and vision of John Taylor, I was involved in the design and design standards and so on concerning the power distribution system in the province. And at that time, we were most fortunate to have Sid Kodama, a brand new graduate engineer, to assist us. That's right. Remember Sid?
Where is he?
Yeah, he was there. And Sid, actually, really, I took advantage of Sid because Sid had to do most of the detailed calculations and design. and during the hydro strike in the 1980, Phil Robertson and I were at Cam River doing our part to keep the lights on. And I can remember seeing Phil there in overall doing his best, working on equipment at the John Hart Generating Station.
That's because we had a 10-week strike.
And my association with Fred Turner was in system planning and system reliability on the island. And of course, the real highlight of my career, and I was most privileged to work with Carol Turner on the Engineers in Training program. And this really, because of Carol, it produced the competent engineers to build hydro to what it is today. That's why our lights are still on.
You're being too kind.
Not right, Carol? Yeah, it's because of Carol.
Because of you, I think.
And let's see now. Yeah, Ken Lowe, and my brother Park, and we were all born in Cumberland, Chinatown. And too bad my sister Mamie's not here, and she was born here, and she's supposed to be here, and she's in her 90s, and we're all in our late 80s, you know, really.
Give us the secret.
Maybe keep smiling. You know. So anyways, thanks to you all for your contribution to our wonderful, challenging, and exciting 60 years. And I was most fortunate to have, huh? No, I'm going to say the most important person in my life is my dear wife, Yvonne.
Yay!
Yeah. I wish to thank her
He admitted it.
for all that she had done to help me, and also been such a wonderful mother to our 5 children. Thank you very much.
Thank you. What we're going to do right now, we're just passing a few glasses of bubbly, and I'm just going to ask everybody to take it. I just have a short speech that I'd like to share with everybody. Is say a few words. First of all, I really enjoyed hearing these stories. I think it tells us a little bit more about my parents' lives and how important these people, the people that are here today, all of you, have been to them. So this is a celebration of our parents' 60th wedding anniversary. And we're so glad that you're all here today. We know it means a lot to them to gather people that are meaningful and have been meaningful to them at different points in their lives. But this is also much more than a 60th wedding anniversary. It's a celebration, and it's a celebration of family. So I talked a little bit earlier about stories and enjoying hearing about your stories. And you'll see, and you'll hear about why I think this is so important. We all remember stories told to us as young children. Remember fairy tales? Remember childhood like Hansel and Gretel? Cinderella? Or Little Red Riding Hood? Do you remember fables? Like The Tortoise and the Hare, The Boy Who Cried Wolf, or The Ant and the Grasshopper. So many of us have our favorites, and somehow they remain very present and clear in our memories. And it's really all due to the power of storytelling. I'm a big believer in the power of storytelling. In fact, much of what we know as historical reference and fact about many cultures has its roots in rich storytelling from elders to their children as a way of ensuring their lives and family are not forgotten or lost. So on behalf of my 3 brothers and sister, I'd like to tell you the story of our family and share it with all of you. People who've been meaningful to our parents' lives. So I decided to look up the definition of family in the Oxford Dictionary. And I thought I was going to actually find a fairly long definition of family. But in fact, here's what I found. The definition of family: a group of people related by blood or marriage. So I think it's correct. It's brief, it's succinct, but I'm going to go a little bit deeper than this. Anybody who knows the Chow family knows the family has been a central tenet to all of our lives. And it has bound us to one another through the years, through the highs, the lows, the joys, the sorrows, the daily trappings of our lives, the singular occasions like weddings, funerals, and even divorce. Family is a commitment. Commitment. It's a big word, and it's not for the faint of heart. We all know that it's not always easy to keep a commitment or live up to a commitment. But for my brothers and sister, growing up, we learned that the concept of family was larger than any one of us. And we also learned that commitment to family takes sacrifice, investment, and ultimately an unmitigated and unwavering belief in it. So, there is no singular definition for family. We all come from different families, and what is normal for one family may be unusual for another family. So, when I think of my dad and family, words like honor, tradition, and respect come to mind. For my mom, I think of unconditional love, acceptance, support. So together, it makes for a pretty powerful image of what family has meant to us. I remember vividly, as I grew up through my youth and into young adulthood, being counseled that family is the only thing that matters. And you may lose your friends, but your family is always there for you. Our dad often told to us, you always need to know who your family is. And so family vacations were often planned around visiting family, whether it was in Vancouver, Winnipeg, Ottawa, Thunder Bay, Toronto, because Dad always wanted us to know not only who our cousins were, but who our first cousins were. Get an education. An education is never wasted. I'm sure my brothers and sister all agree with me that this mantra echoes very clearly within us to this very day and resonates with us as we raise our own children. Well, Dad said, you can do and be anything you want. You just need to try harder. Well, Dad said, if you don't succeed, it's because you don't really want it badly enough. Mom said, always try your very best. That's all I can ever ask of you. Different approaches to motivating their children, but no doubt with the common goal of encouraging their children to be the best they can be. Powerful words of counsel and advice they were, and impressionable upon our young minds growing up. But it was also a tremendous pressure and responsibility to live up to that noble pursuit of family and the obligation that comes with it. Now, I want you all to think of family as a hand-woven piece of fabric. To be sure, the ties that bind family are strong and elastic. But over the journey of life, the strength of these ties and the individual strands that make up the fabric of family have been sorely tested at some points. Sometimes the fabric became frayed at the edges, other times becoming stretched, thinner, and weak at points. But fabric can be mended and patched and repaired. The loose ends can be woven back in. So, it hasn't always been easy to keep our commitment to family and live up to family expectations. And over the years, there have been moments of what we can call healthy tension. Whether it was over one child feeling favored, whether it was over one child being more favored, or another feeling like a square peg in a round hole. Whether it was university versus college education, an arts degree versus a science degree, an interracial marriage, a divorce, whether it was over house purchase, or whether it was over whether or not you're paying your mortgage off quickly enough. Like all families, we haven't always agreed, and we've had our share of family bickering, and we've had our share of disappointments. But we've also had moments, like now, where we feel like we're the luckiest in the world just because we still have our whole family alive and well. So, over the years of our family, the fabric has changed. It may have faded a bit, but it's remained as one. In fact, it's intact, whole, a bit stretched in places, a little bit worse for wear, as they say, but ultimately it has stood the test of time and will continue to do so. Our mother and father taught us very strong values: family, education, and hard work. These are values that sustain each one of us. My brother, sister, and I are here today because of the love, commitment, and unwavering support from our parents. We know we're fortunate to be able to stand before you all today to celebrate our family with you and share these moments with you. Our parents have done a fine job of raising their 5 children, and we thank them for this. We're inspired by their commitment to our family, and our lives are richer and fuller for it. Not only do we hope that we have done right by them, but also hope that we've learned well from those lessons of life and family, so that we can inspire and pass them on to our own children, and that they then can continue the story of our family. So, on behalf of myself, Marla, Gayleen, Larry, Doug, and Warren, please raise a glass to not only my parents on the occasion of their 60th wedding anniversary, but also to each and every one of the families here with us today. To Mom and Dad, we love you, and ultimately to families.
Bill.
So what I'd like to do right now, there's one other thing. We actually have created a montage of our family, and we want to share that with you all. And we're going to ask that you move over to the next room and get to it from this way or through this way. And we're going to share with you a short video montage.
Before you go, can we have
Is my dad?
Where's the cameras?
Kiss!
Don't do anything, Doug. Doug, don't do anything. Doug, what are you doing? What are you doing? It's all set up. No, I put it up already up.
I use my sound one. I don't use. I know how to use my own TV.
Okay.
And I tested it already.
Okay.
Wait till everybody gets here.
I know.
Okay.
That was a great speech. That's really good. Was your mom want to say it? Would your mom like to tell us?
Well, I think she has my dad to speak. I'll ask her.
Get everybody you guys get some more chairs from that room for the side for the seats.
Oh, she's in town.
Will a man shall leave his mother and a woman leave her home? They shall travel on to where the two shall be one. As it was in the beginning, is now until the end. Woman draws her life from man and gives it back again. There is love. Well, then what's to be the reason for becoming man and wife? Is it love that brings you here, or love that brings you life? Or if loving is the answer, then who's the giving for? Do you believe in something that you've never seen before? There's
That's Regina. Right. Oh, there's Katie. And I used to go up to their house. He does feed me and another Chinese nurse Chinese dinners. It was so good.
for the marriage of your spirits has caused
Well, it's not a big fan. We were sort of near the main street, near the station, our restaurant.
gathered in his name. There is love.